Hello, everybody. This is David Wiedemann, and this is 5 Minutes of Thought number 17, Remembering Learning, Turning the Gears. We are going to do three things today. Number one, graph the landscape of learning. Number two, reconnect the layers that are separated in that landscape. And number three, ask ourselves the most important question, so what? Let me ask you a question. How does learning present itself in life? What forms does it usually take? Think of a couple of forms that just pop into your mind and hold them for a second. And then let's graph them on this landscape of learning with time at the bottom and intensity on the left, increasing as we go down. Did you come up with the same shape learning that I did, which was basically something brief and less intense, a training, which I represent with a little dot, like a workshop, something more longer duration and more intense, which you might think of as college or high school, and I'm calling here learning. Did you come up with something like that? Is my question. Most people do when I ask them this question. To make this a real map, let's have these stretch out over time because, of course, you do more than just one training and one learning opportunity in your life. So here they are stretched out. You probably know where I'm going at this point. This is half of the landscape of learning. What's below it? The question you might be asking yourself is what could be more intense learning and of longer duration than college or a master's degree program? Well, it might be provocative, but I suggest that the layer below learning on this landscape is what you might call work. Work, I think, is a longer duration and more intense learning context than learning, traditional learning. And if you don't think work is learning, you might just ask yourself if you ever get better at the things you do in work. And of course you do. So some kind of learning is happening there. So I like to think of it as a learning context. But as you can see, I haven't covered the whole depth of the landscape of learning. So what's below work? And to answer that question, you just have to think for a second. Is there anything that's happening, that's learning, growing, or changing before work, in between work, after work? Yeah, of course, it's you. Something's going on in there, and you're learning more about life, and you're getting more sophisticated and more mature, able to handle more complex thought, etc. You might call that development. The deepest layer, the most continuous layer, always down there, moving along. So here you have the landscape of learning, 4 different layers of learning, from lightweight, brief, to heavyweight, intense, longer-term development cycles. It's a beautiful thing, if I say so myself, but what it's missing is any sense of interconnection. Clearly, these things connect with each other. If you go to a master's degree program, for example, the learning layer, and you learn something awesome and work relevant, that's going to change what's going on in work, right? That's going to connect to work, and it's true for every other layer. So how do you represent interconnectivity? Well, I have a thought, and I call this thought gears of learning. If you think of each layer of the learning landscape, just kind of seem separate on the landscape, as a gear of different sizes, and you think of those gears as connected, then you start to get the idea that you can have a system or a machine where all the parts are spinning at different speeds, but they're still connected and influencing each other. And I think that's a better example or a better way of thinking about what's going on for us inside and out in the internal and the external world of learning. All these things are influencing each other, and yet they're sort of different and have different rules. Okay, let's get concrete. Here is a real-world lens layered on top of the gears of learning. This is what I call the organizational development lens, because these are 4 of the kinds of services that an organizational department in an organization might provide, and here they are lined up with the different layers of gears: workshop, management, training, leadership development, developmental coaching. And with that concrete piece, I think we're just about at the so what moment. So what gears of learning? What's it all about? How can this help me? Why is this important? Why is Dave talking about this? Well, it ends up you can do a lot of things with the gears of learning when you have it in your mind, but I'm going to focus on just one, and that's the holistic application of it to your life or to your work. And that's to take the gears of learning and layer it over your own learning, levels of learning in your workplace landscape, and ask yourself, where are we, or where am I doing these things? Where is training happening? Where's learning happening? What is it like to be at work? Where's my development happening? How am I supporting these different things, and how do they integrate? Basically, using this gears of learning to see your own learning as a kind of an integrated system of different components, and to understand it better, and to start to think about how to manage it and grow it. And that's a really provocative and helpful and fruitful path to go down. And with that, I think we are ready to pause and reflect. 2 questions for you today. Basic reflection question. What does this trigger? What thoughts come to mind? What does this make you think of? What feelings come forward? See if you can't grab those and dwell on those for a little bit. Advanced question. See if you can't explain what you've just heard to somebody else. And with that, I think we can say that we did what we set out to do. We graphed the landscape of learning, we reconnected those layers, and we asked, so what? And this is the end of 5 Minutes of Thought number 17, Remembering, Learning, Turning the Gears. I'm David Wiedemann from David Wiedemann Consulting. You can come see me at davidwiedemann.com and leave your comments and see a lot of other materials like this. And I hope you have an awesome day.